I've been watching cable so-called television news, listening to local radio with syndicated news, and they're announcing, hey, Cyprus got the help they needed. The EU and central banks came to their aid, and they got a bailout. Aren't they lucky? Not, oh, they're rioting all over the country and burning things down, and, oh, there's a compromise. The top 40% will have 10% or more taken out of their bank account, and that's causing investment to flee the country, which causes it to implode further, so the globalists can come in and buy it up for pennies on the dollar. No, nowhere in our news, nowhere that I could see on television news, as I made a point of watching some of it to see if it was taking place, in financial news, on CNBC, on Fox News Radio, nowhere now are they talking about taking money out of people's bank accounts and that it's being transferred to the EU to prop up derivatives. It is just absolutely incredible that Iceland and Greece and all these other countries, 90+% of their debt is not their debt. They've been signed on to this system. They've been signed on to all of the different derivatives. And it's the same thing here. And that's what's going on. That's what's happening. We've got a big stack of news on that front that we're going to be covering. We've also got Boris Berezovsky, the big anti-Putin guy, found dead in his bathroom. And the police just instantly said it's natural causes. No autopsy needed. That's when you know something's suspicious. Because it takes bare minimum of a week or so to get an autopsy properly done and all the toxicology exams back. When you instantly, within hours, or in Breitbart, 45 minutes, I checked the time, about 45 minutes, they're saying nothing to worry about, not foul play, heart attack, heart attack. As soon as you hear that, I mean, this guy had a scarf lying beside him. He even leave the murder weapon. And he'd said that Putin was after him. But it could have been another globalist faction killing him to steal the tens of billions he had ferreted away and hidden in different places. We're going to be breaking that down. And now it's one of the biggest stories in the country. It's up at drudgereport.com, the big top link right now. If you're listening and rebroadcast later, it may have scrolled down the page, or you can always find it at Infowars.com. 360,000 more rounds on top of the 2+ billion, and 15 members of Congress have now asked to see details and have been told to basically go fly a kite, jump in the lake. Well, that's a nice way to put it. And so this arms buildup, they say there are no armored vehicles, there are no bullets. And in fact, they're in U.S. News and World Report denying bullet purchases. In fact, that's the headline out of U.S. News and World Report, is that there just, you know, are no bullet purchases, and so we should all just move along. The point is, there's a total paramilitary buildup against the American people. And by the way, I am for gun control. I don't think government should be deploying tanks and armored vehicles and checkpoints and heavy machine guns and drones while saying they want our guns. So, yes, you've got all these government abuses throughout history. You've got this government abusing people over and over again. Isn't it time to talk about government sensible, reasonable gun control? Because the Austin police chief says ban gun shows, basically. Don't allow private transfers. Can't buy your grandson a gun. Basically registration. He's up there testifying in Congress. You know, I guess his communist training in Cuba is coming through. He swears he's not a communist and loves liberty. But that's pretty authoritarian, Art Aceveda. But he was up there, you know, with the Clintonistas and the Obamanoids, calling for that and saying you don't need a semi-auto to protect yourself. Well, then cops don't. I want the police to turn their semi-autos in right now. If we don't need them to defend ourselves, they don't either.
I'm Darren McBreen, and these are some of the new items that are available now at InfoWarsShop.com.
Alert the public to Obama's blatant abuse of power with the new Obama t-shirt. Obama's Joker face on the front and "Come and Take It" on the back. It's time to publicly call him out for what he is, a tyrant. Defend the Second Amendment with our top seller "Come and Take It" t-shirts. And look at that, women's cut tank tops and t-shirts now available. Nice hat. plus the Don't Tread on Me flag. And now you can become a micro distributor of the InfoWars magazine. Plus, get your own copy delivered right to your door each and every month. And if you're tired like I am of you and your family being exposed to polluted drinking water, get the Pro One high-performance water filter. It gets rid of all pathogenic bacteria, cyst, fluoride, heavy metals, and numerous other contaminants.
So join the revolution at InfoWarsShop.com.
Well, you've got a global cartel of private banks that have taken over Europe, taken over the United States, and most of the world now. And they're openly saying that we need to not be able to take a hot bath or hot shower under the UN regulations, and that we need to not have a car, and that we're using too much energy, and that we need to live in 250-square-foot apartments. And they're saying all over the U.S. and Europe they're going to raise taxes to the point of where you have to live in a 250-square-foot apartment, or it's impossible to pay the taxes. That's going in San Francisco, New York. Germany's doing it countrywide. It's all part of the United Nations Industrial Development Organization plan and treaties and agreements from the 50s, 60s, and 70s that are the root of Agenda 21 codified into world government regulatory law in 1992 in Rio de Janeiro. And this is why they are raising the taxes. This is why they are creating regulations that make it impossible to have a new business operate successfully, especially in manufacturing in the West. They're now going to shut down the service industry as well. They want you totally bankrupted so that you will then have to comply in the social engineering to the government jobs and the select globalist corporate jobs that are able to hire because they are exempt from all of the regulations, the carbon regulations, the offshoring regulations, all of it. This is the planned deindustrialization. And then if you dare try to operate oil refineries or coal mining operations or steel production in the United States, Europe, England, Australia, New Zealand, Canada, you name it, you will be assaulted and sued, as Obama promised to do, quote, to bankrupt coal. If you ever wonder why you hear such demonization of the Koch brothers, it's because they are some of the biggest factory owners in the United States, and because they are the biggest coal mining and refining outfit in the United States, and they keep the lights on. Do I romanticize that and think they're angels? Not particularly. I've spent months off and on as of late trying to dig up some dirt on them that isn't manufactured or fake. And about the worst thing I can find is something that all major oil companies, supply companies have been done because loopholes were written. They've sold equipment, oil refining equipment, to Iran during those decades-long sanctions. And the only reason I just went off into the Koch brothers is I'm starting the broadcast describing why the government wants to shut things down and destroy society. Because it's a globalist program where they are exempt from everything and they shut you down. They bomb third world countries under flimsy pretexts and blow up their chemical plants, their water plants, their power plants, their roads, their bridges. Here they don't blow them up, they just shut them down. I had a fella last Friday, I was in a restaurant with my family, and he walked over and he said, you know, I want to thank you for what you've done. You know, I've worked in Austin Energy. And he said, you know, they've shut down our 2 power plants, clean burning, modern, and they're shutting down the 3rd one. And he goes, you're right, it's doubled prices the last 5 years, and they're going to double again. He goes, my God, and the public's so dumb, they don't even know why their power bills doubled. He goes, the guy just was just so intense. You know, he was just, I want to thank you. You know, we try to do the best we can as well. And, you know, most of us have also been laid off and, you know, let go. And I'm like, I guess you can go to work for General Electric. They're exempt from all the rules. They can have dirty burning, you name it. All that comes out of these modern plants the last 25 years is water vapor and carbon dioxide. So they list carbon dioxide as a pollutant. GMO's not a pollutant. Overfishing's not an issue. I mean, there are hundreds of real environmental issues. The globalists say they care about the environment, but it's the opposite. And the reason I mentioned the Koch brothers before I get into all this huge news today is I constantly see this fake meme that I work for the Koch brothers, that I'm funded by the Koch brothers, well, I sure wish I was. I don't have one stock or one bond or one dime that I get, or anybody, I mean, my wife, children, any of them get from coal, oil, distillates, anything. I have no stocks. I have no bonds. I take the money that I make off my syndicated radio show, it's the big breadwinner for this whole news operation, and plow it into crew and research and equipment. But it doesn't matter. They have Media Matters and you know, Mother Jones and all these fake liberal groups out there implying anyone that is pro-Second Amendment, anyone that's pro-U.S. energy, works for the Koch brothers, and then it's like, oh my gosh, that's so evil. When it's the Enron people that came up with the carbon tax plan, and with Al Gore on record, and it's a plan. I mean, Al Gore is the majority owner of Occidental Petroleum. Al Gore has got tens of billions in offshore accounts. And again, I think we should have moved away from oil. I know there's, you know, monopolies on the carburetors and things, and they try to block new energy development. And the new energy development we're getting is a fraud. But the point is, the globalists are shutting down our industry and shutting down our coal, mainly because big oil wants that, while at the same time not letting us have new things that actually empower us. I mean, they won't give you a tax credit to put off the grid solar or wind in. In fact, they'll harass you in most areas, especially if they're, quote, liberal, to not give you a permit. Or they'll say, well, what's that windmill doing? What's that solar array? And come harass you. So it's not Koch brothers good guys, everybody else bad guys. It's just that I've been constantly accused of working for the Koch brothers with no evidence. And then so I go and I think, you know, I say, well, let me really research the Koch brothers. And so it becomes kind of a little pet project as I do in research. And I discover that they're anti-Agenda 21. They have, quote, secret meetings with conservative leaders, and they sneak out the audio, and it's, how do we defend the Second Amendment? How do we defend the family? How do we keep America competitive? How do we reverse offshoring? I mean, you can go to the Brad blog. We've had that gone before. You know, got the, quote, secret recordings a few years ago with the Republican, you know, libertarian powwow with Judge Napolitano as the keynote speaker. Oh, my goodness, the evil. And the whole thing's about we must defend the Second Amendment, the family, and property rights. You know, there are collectivist mega-rich who want to shut down all the nouveau riche and independent rich. I mean, that's what's going on at these meetings. What did the head of the Dallas Fed and the head of the Kansas City Fed come out last week and say? They said crony elite mega banks are going to shut down all the other free market and create a consolidation and destroy our economic future. Even MIT came out a few months ago and said, we will never reindustrialize. We are in a total emergency situation. That is the kind of stuff that we are talking about here. And so thank God I've been accused for working for the Koch brothers, because it made me actually go research them and find out what they're up to and what they're doing. A private family, the second largest private corporation in the country, that hasn't merged into tax-free foundations. They go to some globalist meetings to protect their interest, obviously. And then they're horrible because they're having secret meetings in Colorado. Not really secret. They're just not open to the public. And hours of it gets released, and it's the government wants to destroy the family. The government wants to take our guns. The government's run by authoritarian mega corporations that aren't free market. Oh, my gosh. How do we, the independent wealthy, defend freedom? Oh, my gosh. Can you imagine the evil level of this? So I'm going to do a report on the Koch brothers as soon as I get time. I've got, no exaggeration, about 100 reports partly done or almost completely done. I bought off more than I can chew. Okay, I mean, there's so much I want to cover. In fact, I'm going to hook it up at my house now that I finally have good internet. Finally got some good internet where I want it set up, guys, with my IT guys, where I could just go in and hit one button and take over the refeeds on the audio feeds, or create podcast that I hit a button, record it, very simple. I mean, I know how to upload stuff to YouTube and things. So the point is, So I can just, when I'm really brainstorming at 2 in the morning, I'm tempted to just have like a room I walk into that I just hit a button and I'm on TV and there's video feeds, because that's when I have my brainstorms. Is when I'm here on the radio, there's just so much to cover, and ads and guests coming up. And we still cover a lot of important things. It's just that I want to do more. And it's just so many times that you see me doing these, what listeners call underwear uploads, because sometimes I'll be shirtless, shooting video of all what's on the computer screen, and people can see that I'm not wearing a shirt occasionally. So it's what's been affectionately dubbed the underwear special reports. But, I mean, I'm just desperate to get this info out. I know the globalist plan. I have all the UN documents, like United Nations Industrial Development Organization, founded in the 1950s, to shut down Western industrial systems and actually shut down the third world as well, only allow globalist combines to operate. I mean, I know their whole battle plan, and I know what they're up to. And we are just in so much trouble, ladies and gentlemen, because the mainline Republicans are controlled by the globalists. The Democrats are kind of the vanguard to lead us into the collectivism. And it's collectivism to have full government control over us. So it's a very nightmarish prospect. Now, when we come back, retired Army captain warns DHS acquisitions are a bold threat of war against the American people, says Americans have to prepare to defend themselves and the U.S. Constitution against the Obama administration coup against the American people. DHS in U.S. News and World Report outright denies any bullet purchases. DHS denies massive ammunition purchases. There you go, not happening, even though it's all public. Big Sis orders 360,000 rounds more on top of the $2 billion. That's top story up at drudgereport.com. And we're going to get into the incredible Cyprus deal, 40% of bank accounts to be looted. Insider billionaire investors like George Soros and John Paulson have recently made massive moves into gold, purchasing what Bloomberg News described as gold hoards. Soros alone doubled his holdings in a single day. Russia's Vladimir Putin has doubled down on gold, increasing the country's holdings by over 100%. With $1.8 trillion under management, the bond king Bill Gross, the world's preeminent bond fund manager at PIMCO, has warned investors of the dangers of QE3 and inflation. And what's he betting on? You guessed it, gold. Friends, this is Alex Jones for MidasResources.com. For more than 15 years, I have exclusively used Midas Resources for all my precious metal needs. Whether it's bullion or collectibles you're looking for, Midas Resources is simply the best. I own my gold as a hedge against inflation. This Federal Reserve fiat currency could go the way of the Deutschmark and the Weimar Republic anytime. In these historically dangerous times, it makes sense to physically hold gold and silver. Midas already has some of the best deals in the industry. But if you give them a call and mention the radio special, they will give you a list of the day's super specials. Midas brokers are standing by to answer all your questions at 800-686-2237. They also have a lot of informative free literature explaining the opportunities and risk of holding precious metals. They are ready to answer your questions at 800-686-2237. Again, that's 800-686-2237. See, the globalists will create irrational fears in people over things that aren't really dangerous or overall bad, like citizens being armed. Oh my gosh, the idea of other citizens being armed is so frightening, but historically you should be concerned and frightened of a government that's armed to the teeth and engaged in domestic military operations, which is now happening. The Department of Homeland Security is a fifth branch of the military, beholden only to the president, not to Congress. And Congress is told, you will not see our DHS plans for civil unrest. You will not see the DHS plans on the billions of bullets. You will not see the Pentagon plans for military operations around the world. You are on the Armed Services Committee. You are on the Intelligence Committee. You hold the power of the purse. You declare the war. The president then executes. We're telling you that's all done. The office of the president is becoming a dictator because the office of the president is a corporate front position. One guy they've got to buy instead of 500 plus in Congress. One guy who can sit there and checkmate Congress and checkmate the states and checkmate the courts and checkmate it all. And that's what's happening. Foreign globalist interest, exempt from taxation worldwide. Warren Buffett. Oh, raise taxes on rich people. I've got too much money, using class envy when he's exempt from the taxes offshore. Oh, I love you. I want you to do well. I'm Warren Buffett. That's why I lobbied and spent tens of millions of dollars per year in the last decade to block the construction of the Keystone Pipeline. And even though you got it built, you're not going to get that oil in America. It's going to go for me and George Soros to China, where we're invested. So they're going down like imagine America as a breaker box. They're turning the breakers off. And it's very painful to see people, family, veterans, people I've known my whole life don't have money to drive to work now, to see restaurants closing, businesses closing, roads rotting. But more cops. You can't swing a dead cat and not county, city, state, federal, armored vehicles, helicopters, checkpoints. Oh, yes, the signs of tyranny. As they just flip the switch, just grabbing the switch, just turning the lights out in America. It's like going down the life support, flipping off the switches, click, 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 click. And then I hear, Koch brothers, demons, Koch brothers, the devil, Koch brothers, there's no one worse. Why, they flay children alive. Alex Jones works for them. And I go, let me go check these guys out. I mean, sure, I know more than most people, being politically aware, but let me go make sure I'm, know about these guys. So I spent the last few weeks, and I've got Aaron looking into them right now. We're going to do a whole report on the good, the bad, and the ugly of the Koch brothers. But then I come to the industrial fact that they are all that's left of the engine of America. And don't worry, so-called left authoritarians, that engine's going to get blown. I can see where everything's going. You're going to shut everything down. Okay? Don't worry. You'll defeat the Koch brothers. You'll destroy them. Don't worry. You didn't get that pipeline. China gets it. Okay? Don't worry. Don't worry. And go get your college education, which there's going to be no jobs for unless it's in Homeland Security. And by the way, the government wouldn't hurt us. Roll your sleeve up and take all the vaccines. Sure, there's thousands of admitted lethal secret tests that have been declassified on foster kids and U.S. military personnel and black people. Even a few years ago, testing pesticides on black kids, foster kids, taken by CPS in New York until they die. I mean, we need to turn our guns into a government like that. Okay, so, man. Let me tell you, I'm not worried about Foxconn and Apple with suicide nets and forced abortions. Okay? I mean, let me tell you, that's a good thing. That's liberal. But let me tell you, what is bad? The Koch brothers, ladies and gentlemen, lobby and give money to pro-Second Amendment causes. Oh, yesterday I spent a couple hours listening to the secret recordings leaked from a 2011 meeting. The Brad blog, I ought to get him on. I've had the guy on, actually, before on Election Friday. He's a pretty good guy, but I ought to have him on and go, yeah, Brad, this is terrible. Let's play some of these clips. We got to protect the family. I mean, I'm glad I investigated because I supposedly work for him. Oh, my gosh, speaker after speaker, we got to defend private property and the new wealth that is the engine and not let the crony capitalists take over. I mean, look at that evil Fed chief in Dallas, Federal Reserve head of the Dallas Federal Reserve. That's the, let's show him Reuters. It says crony capitalists have taken over and are going to shut down their competition. Oh, arrest him. He's bad, too. See, when the Koch brothers do a few good things, I'm not saying they're perfect because I'm doing deep research on them, and I'm finding some stuff, obviously. And when the Dallas Fed, I mean, I had Dr. Paul Kirk Roberts on Friday. I said, are they doing that because they know things are about to implode and they don't want to be blamed? And Roberts is like, no, they realize America's finished. And there's Feds Fisher, too big to fail banks or crony capitalist, Reuters. I guess he's bad. You know what? And they're actually attacking him. He's the bad guy because he's telling the truth. See, I'm starting to figure this out. When sane people, even in the power structure, go, you know what? There's these offshore mega banks that are so powerful. How about the Koch brothers collectively with like 40-something billion bucks? And I mean, literally thousands of factories in the U.S. You know, the globalist that came out, AP did a lawsuit back in 2000, got documents where the big 10 oil companies met. And you can look these up. I've done reports on them, but just look them up. And met in 95 and 96 to create an artificial scarcity in oil. And they tried to buy up all of the privately owned refineries or have regulators shut them down to create an artificial bottleneck to rape you. That's big oil. Queen Beatrix, Queen of England, who owned Dutch Royal Shell, British Petroleum. They even tell you they own them. Dutch Royal Shell, BP, British Petroleum. And then you find out, oh, they hired the regulators to go try to shut down all the Koch brother refineries in Louisiana, Mississippi, and Texas that supply the whole Midwest and East Coast. Oh, and then I just spent hours looking at it. This economic warfare where trillionaires are trying to blow the engine of the U.S., and the Koch brothers would not shut down their refineries the last 15 years. But don't worry, they're losing now. They'll be shut down soon. And you're like, good, I'll have an electric car. No, 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 they're shutting the coal plants down too that create the electricity. 52% of our power. They're shutting everything down right now. I mean, you people that support this are self-destructive idiots. I mean, I am just, see, I said I was getting into all this other news. It's just so frustrating to watch us being powered down and to know how horrible it is and to know we've gone from 20 million on food stamps to 50 million and to know that this is all happening and to just want to stop it. What's that Three Doors Down song, Dynamite? We're going to play that coming in the next segment because that's how I feel. Kryptonite, yeah, that's it. I always get the names of things wrong. Obviously, Kryptonite. See if you can find that, play it coming in. Because, you know, I mean, the general public's sleepwalking. And I'm sitting here watching them being abused and mega bank trillionaires shutting everything down with mass suicide factories and suicide nets and, you know, 5 million robots ordered, 1 million already delivered to replace humans, running around saying how they're going to kill us. And they're the liberals. They're the humanitarians because the television said so. And then there's some private family that had hundreds of patents their father developed, so they independently, kind of in that last window, made their own money. Steel plants, aluminum plants, fertilizer plants, paper plants, plastic plants, distillates, just thousands of factories. I started realizing just every factory I drive around, half of them are Koch brothers. Or Koch Carbon, their other brother. And I just see all this happening. And you know what? I agree with you. I agree with Mother Jones and Media Matters run by the White House and all of them. Arrest them, shut them down. Shut every coal power plant down. I'm going to give you what you want here. Shut every coal plant down. Shut down all the oil pipelines. Shut everything down. Oh, but see, it won't be done quickly where you notice it's ruining you. It'll be done real slow, creeping financial death. So you'll be cheering it the whole way while it happens. There won't be a quick death to the American economy. While the globalists move everything to China, and it doesn't even empower the Chinese, they're being used to have the race to the bottom, to leverage everything down to absolute zero. Because when they fall as total slaves, the rest of the world will be sucked down by it. Sucked down in that competition, that false, fraudulent, it's like a football game where you're playing against the other team on a 90-degree angle. And they get to kick off from a mountain on top of you, and each time, even if you try to run a touchdown, you never get to go from the top. You're always going uphill. And ignorance absolutely reigns. What did Pulitzer Prize winner Chris Hedges say about it? We now live in a nation where doctors destroy health, lawyers destroy justice, universities destroy knowledge, governments destroy freedom, the press destroys information, religion destroys morals, and our banks destroy the economy. Chris Hedges. And the United Nations, in the New York Times, they admit, in Africa and Latin America and Asia, in Burma, was the first time I saw a report of this about 15 years ago. It was even in the National Geographic magazine. They were saying it was good. So I went and looked it up on kind of the proto-web that it is today. like 90, it was about 99 actually, so 14 years ago. And it talked about how the UN exterminated thousands of the population to make it a UN biosphere. They go in and actually shoot the people. You know, like you go in and kill a group of invasive elephants that go into farming belts in Africa. They do that. And it described the culling of the wild humans. And then these environmentalists come back and go, well, it's got to be done. You know, I have 15 jets. You know, I love the Queen of England. Prince Charles came out and said you shouldn't take a hot shower because of the carbon footprint. They have over 100 giant palaces. Some of them have thousands of rooms. Some of the palaces are over 100 square miles. Not the palace itself, but the grounds of them. They have, each member has their own private train, private jet copters. Last time I checked, Prince Charles had more than 20 aircraft and flies them himself. And they get several billion pounds a year just to pay for their gas allowance to heat the palaces. I'm going to say that again. To heat the Rothschilds have palaces everywhere, same deal, and they're all saying you are using too much, you can't have plastic bags, blah, 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 while they conspicuously, you want to talk about class envy, you've got 1/10 of 1%, we did the math, what was it, 1 out of some impossible number? What is 600 top gophers, 6,000 minion gophers, in the superclass book by Rothkopf, and less than 20 families. Less than 20 families have more than 80% of the world's wealth. By the way, when the U.S. had the biggest middle class in the world, they only had about half of it just a few decades ago. There, it's the ultra-rich are the ones, man. They're like, I don't own those power plants, shut them down. I don't own those ships, shut them down. I don't own those factories, shut them down. Move them to China. Where you got to go to the Chinese Politburo and the generals, who are all billionaires now, live in literal palaces, and the people are used like slaves while they build the robots to replace us. Robots that work on robots. I mean, do you understand how frustrated I am? And then the boogeyman of the incredible authoritarian, I tell you what, if we're going to arrest rich people just because they're rich, let's start with the Queen of England, the Rothschilds, the Rockefellers, Ted Turner, Bill Gates, all of them. And then after you've arrested all of them, we can arrest the Koch brothers. If you've got like this Soviet dream of, you know, you're in a Che Guevara outfit and storming the Bastille, you know, you're a Jacobin. So you don't know what that is. You should actually find out before you fantasize. But a T-shirt's simple for you, isn't it? They're shutting it all down. And by the way, they're not shutting it down to bankrupt it and take it over and turn it back on. They're not going to turn it back on. Do you understand that? They're not going to turn any of it back on. And you're going to laugh now, a lot of you, but you won't be laughing soon. You won't be laughing soon. And all the arrogant police. I can't believe Art Aceveda, our Austin police chief, the only Texas police chief they could get, to go to D.C. and call for a shutdown of private sales of guns. That means you can't transfer guns when you die. You can't give family a gun. Felonies, and they will start arresting everybody. Where'd you get that gun? Prove your history. And felonies for over 7-round mags. He wants those banned. And felonies. They already ran a fake sting with the ATF to try to shut down Austin gun shows. And, you know, I said he's an authoritarian. He said, how dare you, I want to go on your show for saying I'm a commie or an authoritarian, because he came from Cuba. And you know what? Why don't you go back to Cuba? In fact, the headline ought to be, Art Aceveda moving back to Cuba. And he'll probably get real mad about that. But the point is that I guess you're trying to turn America into Cuba so you can go work for the Justice Department. When Art, you know, the crime rates dropped 49% nationwide in violent crime because of armament of the citizens. The criminals are scared to death since 1991. The gun ownership graph goes straight up, and the crime rate going down goes straight down. It's an X on the graph. Guns go up, crimes go down. And you know that. But you want to toady up there. I've got his testimony. APD chief pushes for tighter gun control. Here it is. Unbelievable that this is what our country...
Austin Police Chief Art Aceveda is taking part in the ongoing national debate over gun control. He made the trek to Washington yesterday. He tweeted out this photo yesterday afternoon. Aceveda testified at a House hearing in favor of universal background checks for gun purchases.
The universal background check is a first and essential step toward comprehensive reform of our firearms and
First
gun
step to
laws.
confiscation.
Without this essential element, there can be no lasting impact on gun violence.
Right now, all licensed dealers have to submit potential buyers to a background check, but that law does not apply to private sellers and person-to-person transactions at gun shows.
Yeah, really what it is
Austin Police Chief
really what it is a registration program. That's what it is. It is a registration program against the American people, period. And you heard him. It's an important first step. He's showing, hey, I know the plan, guys. Promote me up to federal level. He's all speaking code. And Arte Saveda has put his arm around me. He's sworn he's a patriot. He's promised, there'll never be troops in Austin on the streets. There's now troops all the time running checkpoints and put in all sorts of crowd control in Austin. There's now TSA checkpoints downtown. And there you go, buddy. You are un-American, just like all the other enemies of this country. Period. And the entire Austin police force, you either speak out against this, but you won't, because your higher-ups are all politicians too. And don't worry, they're going to shut your power plants down, shut your future down. And cops, hope you look at your kids, because they have no future. You know, I ran into the cop that was threatening to arrest me at the Austin airport. I was in an Italian restaurant by the movie theater, and I see the guy walk in, and he sees me, and he turns and walks over to the bar with his wife where they were going to eat. And I came over, and first he's like, we're fine, we're fine. Kind of leave me alone. And then later he looks over and goes, hey, how you doing? After I think he got the first shock of seeing me. But the whole point is, he was going to see Olympus falling, which again is total fantasy about how terrorists are under every table. Hey, cops, the real terrorists are the globalists. They're destroying America.
Jakari Jackson here, and I want to talk to you for a second about water. You know about ProPure, our flagship water purification system, but check out some of our portable water filter products at InfoWarsStore.com. The clearly filtered water pitcher. Also, for those of you on the go, we have the Athlete Edition filtered water bottle and the RAD Eliminator Pro filtered sports bottle that removes radiation. And keep in mind, we have replacement filters for all of these products. The ever-popular grab-and-go bag favorite, the Life Straw, the Crystal Quest shower filter system, and the Aquapod kit, great for mass storage of water. And while you're at the InfoWars shop, pick up a copy of our latest book, 31 Days to Survival. You can find all this and more at the InfoWarsStore.com. And don't forget, it's your support that funds our operation. Sign up for our free newsletter at InfoWars.com/newsletter.
Here's the deal. Real tyrants are taking over, and I got to be honest with you. I know I've had the Austin police chief on 4 or 5 times over the years. He's a charming guy. I wanted to believe he wasn't, a wicked gun grabber, but they're putting out this hoax that guns are discredited and guns cause crime. And anybody that tries to disarm the American people is part of the occupying collaborator system. And so I want everybody to get this video, this live broadcast, but there's video of it that'll be posted at prisonplanet.tv and on YouTube, and send it to Arte Saveda. Art, if you think the citizens not having guns, this goes for the rest of the police chiefs that work for the foreign banks one way or another. If you think that guns are so evil in citizens' hands, you should move back to Cuba. You should move to North Korea. You should move to communist China, where they got mobile execution vans. How dare you come to America and flee tyranny and try to put it on me and my family? And I take it real personal because I know you. I take it real personal. I get sick when I see all these police chiefs up there. I'm going to roll some video for radio listeners. We'll post it up at Infowars.com. But here's FBI.gov and the crime statistics from 1991 to 2011. The latest numbers. A 49% drop in violent crime nationwide on average. And you can look at the graph of gun ownership. It goes up. The crime goes down. You know that. You know, within 1 year of Texas having concealed carry, violent home invasions, carjackings, and other aggravated assaults went down by more than 30%. You know, more than 25% in Florida. And you know the same similar number in every stinking state in this country. And I am sick of you and your hoax. You want our guns because the globalists are getting ready to implode this country. And you want us to be like people in Mexico who had their guns taken 100 years ago and who have been slaves ever since. Mexico has a total ban on citizen guns, and they have the highest gun crime rate in the world. There's your message, Arte Saveda. Go ahead and go get your Justice Department job. Maybe you'll really show off for them. Maybe you'll go to the Justice Department and be like Eric Holder, who was involved in Oklahoma City. Maybe you'll go there and teach us how to ship guns into Mexico to kill thousands of innocent people so you can blame it. Maybe you'll show the Justice Department what a good collaborator you are. Why don't you go back to Cuba and go apologize to Fidel Castro, who's killed hundreds of thousands of his own people after taking their guns? Why don't you go, Comrade Fidel, I love you. I love what you do. I want to take the guns from America. Why don't you come to America, Fidel, and help us run everything there? We will take the guns, Fidel. I will prove to you, comrade, what we will do to them. Yeah! Oh, I'm supposed to just go, oh, my police chief says, felony if I have over a 7-round mag. He says, shut down the gun show. Oh, I can't give my dad a gun. He can't give me a gun. My dad tried to give me a BB gun last night. We were over at the house shooting at his house. Kids were having fun. One of those Crossman, revolver, gas-powered ones, CO2. Ooh, evil CO2. He tried to give it to me, and I said no. Some cities have laws where BB guns are banned. Felonies for that. I'm sick of it. I'm tired of the criminal government. The government's parasitic, out of control. I got an idea. How about the government turns their guns in? 2 billion plus rounds of ammo. Thousands and thousands of giant armored vehicles. All the militarization. And saying now, Homeland Security's for gun owners, returning veterans, libertarians, the rest of us. Because we stand in the way of the destruction of this country. And anybody that does is demonized. You're going to see people join Sauron. You're going to see people join Mordor. You're going to see people join the New World Order. I am not one of these people. And when we come back, Joel Scows is coming up, but I haven't even gotten into the bombshell news. 40% of the bank accounts to be looted. 40% now. Visit Infowars.com and PrisonPlanet.com. When you're on the site, you can also tune in 24 hours a day to my daily radio broadcast. There's also a free iPhone app to listen to the syndicated radio show when and where you want.